Unmute. Hola, hola. Vale. So, okay. Welcome, everyone. Thank you, Vero. Vero disappeared? Ah, no. So fast, no. Thank you, Vero, for hosting, well, and also all the other group of Google developers here in Barcelona that trust on the content, trust on us. I think he wants to join us. Also, thank you to Social Point that they provide the space, and also we'll have some beers and some. No, please, can you sit over there? Okay. So the presentation will last 1 hour more or less, and later we can go to the other side of the floor and have some drinks and have some food, and also talk about wherever we want to talk. Could be related to spreadsheets or not. Let's see. Okay, so thank you also to Edgar, that is there in the last row. He's organizing kind of an iron hack bootcamp. So it's a program of 7 months where whatever. Well, this bootcamp is for people, and we have here some students that came interested on the topic. So it's a social initiative, and I think it's its first edition, and I really encourage for more editions because I think it's really, really good initiatives, and I know some of you already, and I think I have a lot of hope that you rock in the wherever you want to rock. And thank you all other people that are here joining this strange, I would say, meetup about spreadsheets. That I would say that it's not a current topic or a fancy topic. And we'll see what we do with spreadsheets. So yeah, my name is Guillem, and I'm data tools engineer here in Social Point. Most of the people doesn't really understand this role. So usually I'm saying that I'm tools developer, so I'm working in the tools department. And well, for example, yesterday I was in after work drinks, and they were saying, okay, but what is Social Point? Well, Social Point is a mobile game company. We develop games that are around the world. Mainly, the market is in America. Probably you know Candy Crush from King, for example. So we are not King. But Social Point have, for example, Dragon City or Monster Legends, that maybe some of you play them in your mobile. And well, people usually ask me, and which kind of tools do you do? And that comes the part where I say, well, yeah, they are spreadsheet tools. And the first reaction is, what? And so, yeah, I designed spreadsheets for game designers, for project managers, for product managers, so they can increase their productivity. And I was saying yesterday, well, in fact, tomorrow I have a talk about spreadsheets. Second, what? And in fact, more than 30 people is coming to the event, and they are interested in spreadsheets. So people were like, oh my God, no way. One girl confessed me, okay, I hate spreadsheets. So I would like to know, first of all, who among you are using Excel, Microsoft Excel, Google Sheets? So if you could raise your hand. You used or you use? Okay. So I would like to know which of ones you hate or love spreadsheets. So we point one wall. Hate there. Love there. Okay, we have some middle points like it's not my day-to-day maybe, or it's okay. Some people who love it, some people who hate it. So, okay, I have a challenge here. I expect it. So my goal here today is to make spreadsheet the new sexy and try to make the spreadsheet shine, seeing the cases we are using it here in Social Point. So let's start with the context. I started here in Social Point 2 years, almost 3 years ago, 2.5. At that point, I joined Monster Legends, and well, both Monster Legends and Dragon City both are multi-platform games. They started 5 years ago as Facebook Canvas, and 1 year after, I think, they started in mobile. So they are running in iOS, Android, and Amazon. So as you can see, as 5 years old games, we have a lot of legacy. We have a lot of complexity in the games as they are multi-platform. So it's not easy to implement changes, to adapt new processes or whatever. So in order to extend the product, in order to extend the games, there are also live game operations. It's content we are adding every day to the game in order to feel it alive to the people. More or less, we have up to 8 temporal events per day. Temporal events or live ops would be an offer, would be a new, saying, hey, we have an offer in 2 days. Or it could be a new monster, so an offer of that monster. So as you can see, the synchronization of all the team working behind the live op games is difficult, and also they are interrelated, so the configurations are quite complex. So I joined the company as a consultant, and my first goal was to optimize the way that Monster Legends was creating monsters. So I found that Monster Legends was creating tons and tons of new content. So there were in a lot of departments and also some people, they were doing repetitive tasks and processes. Also, there were a really high complexity in the configurations, as I said, for all the reasons of the maybe legacy or also multi-platform. So the setting files were spread around different places. Okay, we are using spreadsheets also to host the JSONs. So there were thousands of spreadsheets with the JSONs and the configuration. And well, we at the time and also now we have features that constantly are evolving. So now the monster have relics, or the monster have a new skill, or have a new thing that interact with another feature in the game. So all these new features has to be involved in all the tools when you are making the features to understand where you are. At that point, it was wow. That's a big challenge. And who would say that 2.5 years after, we transform that held spreadsheets in tools itself. And we have different cases. We pick some of the more shiny cases. So spreadsheets as forms that I will present myself, and spreadsheets as level editors that we will have Henry, game designer, presenting this case. Spreadsheets as databases, where Philippe will present this part, and also spreadsheet. Philippe is also data tools engineer. And also we'll see the spreadsheet dashboards with Xavi, that is project manager. So we'll see also in the agile environment and how it's integrated with all the productivity in the team. So let's start. Spreadsheets as forms. Let's see in context Monster Legends. We have monsters as Pandalf. As you can guess, it's a panda and a Gandalf together. So amazing. Or Karasu, another fighting monster. So there are more than 550 monsters right now in the game. And it's constantly growing. So by the end of the year, maybe we'll have 600. So it's up to 10 new ones every month. So people can feel that they can collect more monsters, so they can fight differently and also see new skills, etc. And each monster has 12 unique skills. So let's see a monster in the game, how it looks like. Okay, so this is a monster. This is Ingenica 1. So let's see Ingenica, what's behind Ingenica. Vale. So we have different JSONs that build this amazing monster. We have units. It's a list of all the monsters in the game. We have attacks. It contains skills and special skills. We have localization. This game has up to, I think it has 12 languages: Korean, Japanese, Chinese, German, all the Latin languages. So every string has a translation for every game. And we need, for example, the description of the monster, but also the description of each skill. Then we have a library where we see the collections they belong. And we also see, welcome, and buffed monsters. At some point during a temporal time, certain range, they are boosted, they are buffed, so we have to define it in this JSON. So by 2016, game designers, as Henry, they were spending 8 hours setting only one monster. So let's do some numbers. Let's do some math. 12 monsters every month. So that means more or less 100 hours spent by doing monsters by game designers. So that's a lot, say, because there are many other things to do. And we realize that from these hours, 8 hours, not all of them were creative part. Most of them, they were monkey job. Let's say copy paste, bug fixing, human error. Oh, this JSON is not well done. I have to do it again. Back and forth. Developers. So we created a tool that it's called Monster Shaper. So Shaper, it's the cool name we named Spreadsheet Tools because they shape content. So it was sticky. So now you will see everything is Shaper. Monster Shaper aggregates all the information, so all in one. So you have everything in the panel, everything in the same dashboard, and then you can export and spread all the configuration through all the JSONs. We have some change. We go again to the Monster Shaper, we export again, and the update is being done. So this is how it looked like. As you see, it's a spreadsheet, so it's Google Sheets. Maybe you cannot see the contrast, but well, we have some box here. It's a form, so name. Here we have a drop-down, so they can select and they don't have human errors. And for example, the monster stats. So all this information helps us to build, in this case, for example, the units JSON. So let's see a little bit farther. what we are doing with the monster shaper. The skills. So here, the game designer introduce the skill name, and here put some comments, because before they do a briefing to see what this monster does, and also brief it to the art team, sound team, and all other departments involved. Then they put some damage that this attack is doing, some cooldown, the kind of element that is using this attack, and pointer, it's kind of where is the target, let's say. So this is kind of a long, you have to scroll, so I put in different segments. So then every skill, every attack is composed by 4 different components, maximum. So as you can see here, there are many drop-downs where they can select from all the options the possible skills that they can do. And this target is related to the pointer. So for example, if I'm pointing to myself, I cannot do a reheal to an ally because I'm pointing myself. There is kind of combinations that we help game designers to do before it was a mess. Next, we add some information about the artificial intelligence, so what it has to do, and most important also the animation. So we have an asset manager with all the animations, another tool, not in a spreadsheet, that also has the linked sound with this animation. So as you can see, there is fetch it. So you can go to a menu, fetch it, and all the IDs are filled. Oops, well yeah. You missed the transition, but no problem. Last part, description of the skill. That was a really tedious part, because it was not creative at all. You just have to describe what was in the skill, and they had to type, okay, this is damage of high damage, physical to one enemy. So we added a cool script, so in the menu, that you just press generate skill descriptions, and in less than 10 seconds, I would say, ta-chan, and game designer crying like, oh, amazing. So this is taking all the combinations we saw. So we are creating as limited combinations with, okay, if it's plural, we know that it's require, it's singular, it requires, and these combinations that first it's maybe long to do, but at the end it saves a lot of time. So, but nowadays, we created more than 300 monsters. So more than the half of the monsters in Monster Legends has been done in a spreadsheet. What? They were spending 8 hours. So in the first version, the first tool, the first shaper we did, they decreased to 3 hours. And right now, they are spending only 30 minutes to set up a monster. Okay, they need time to brief it, to think about it, but when they have to set it up, okay, I know what I want to do, it's only 30 minutes. So more or less, if we do the calculations, it's kinda 1 month of game designer work per year that we saved. So that's why game designers love us so much. And the cool thing is the Monster Legends is really, the cost is really low to do. So that's a really cool thing. Great impact and low cost of development. So I would like to introduce you Henry, one of our game designers. Okay. We'll do it.
Is it okay? Hello? Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah. All right, awesome. Big round of applause for Guillem. All right, so my name is Enrique Souza, or Henry, because it's easier to pronounce. I'm a game designer at Social Point. I've been here for almost 2.5 years, and I've been in Monster Legends since I joined. How many of you know Monster Legends, the game? The people at Social Point, cool, awesome. Nice. Okay, I think I can give you enough context. So I'm here to talk to you about Spreadsheet as level editors, or on a more broad sense, as game design tools. I put here saving the life of designers one spreadsheet at a time. As you saw from the last slide of Guillem's presentation, it's quite accurate and quite literal because we're saving a lot of time to a lot of people, for a lot of people. I'm going to talk to you about our context. We're going to talk about a specific event that we have in Monster Legends, which is called the Maze Island. The Maze Island is one of the most important events in the game. It's one of the most important because for players, it's one of the best ways to get new monsters and really cool monsters. And for us, because it's one of the events with the highest average daily revenue, so it's also very important for us on the business side of things. It's a very different event from all the other events in the game because it has a map and a level, which is unique to each event. So the other events don't have this level design aspect to it. It has a very, very complex balancing configuration, as you'll see in a bit. And before we introduced spreadsheets into the process, the setup process was insane. Was multiple pieces of software needed to set up one event, and multiple days of setup time. I'm talking about 4 to 7 days, 6, 7 days, for an event that lasts between 10 and 20 days, so it's a huge amount of effort. A little bit more context about what is a Maze Island. So this is a representation of a Maze Island. It's a series of interconnected paths. Each path has a monster at the beginning. Players pay a certain amount of event currency so they can progress from node to node with a monster. As they move from node to node, they get rewards that are placed on the nodes. When they reach the end of each path, they get the monster. Some of the monsters are locked behind bars. That's because you need to use monsters that are already available to collect keys and unlock those monsters and then progress with those monsters. So this is the Maze Island event. So what was our challenge? So I mentioned that the setup process was multiple tools, multiple pieces of software, multiple days. So we wanted to simplify it. That's the overall macro goal. We wanted to simplify the process. And the first thing that we thought about was to centralize the 3 core pillars of the event, so the map design, the balancing, and the reward distribution, into one single tool. So stop using multiple pieces of software, focus on one tool. We also wanted to improve the iteration speed because since the process was very difficult and very slow, we were slow to react to changes, to last-minute changes. And also reduce the chance of human error because there was a lot of manual data entry involved. All right, so this was the before. This was the old times. So for the manual map drawing, for the map drawing that you saw in the picture before, we had to go into Photoshop. We had to draw everything that you saw there manually, like insane, and then export. I'm thinking about it going back to those times, and it's insane. Export a PNG, load it into a buggy, old, archaic web app, drag and drop markers on top of the nodes so we could export the coordinates. But because it was a very manual process of dragging and dropping, the nodes didn't quite line up perfectly. So we had to develop a Python script that took the raw coordinates and snapped them to a grid and exported them. And then we had to copy-paste the coordinates into the Maze Island JSON. Part 1, amazing. Almost 2 or 3 days on this. Then we had to do the balancing. So we get like a business goal or a balancing goal, let's say, from the product team or the live ops team. And we need to calculate how much each node and each path costs to be able to reach that product or that business goal. We also had to distribute the keys that allow you to unlock new monsters throughout the entire Maze Island in a way that gives players the feeling of progression. So they're always getting a new key, so they're almost always unlocking a new monster. So we need to do that, and then fine-tune, polish the balancing, and again, export values, copy-paste, Maze Island JSON. I think you're seeing a pattern here, which is an amazing pattern. And then finally, the coolest part of all, defining the node content. So for the hundreds of nodes on that map, we had to go one by one and say, okay, I'm going to put food here. I'm going to put gold here. I'm going to put a rune here. Yes. And then we had to go not only define the type, but define the value. So let's say we want to give 1,000 gold in one event. We can't give 1,000 gold in just one node. We need to distribute it. And we need to distribute it in a smart way. So we need to give a little amount at the beginning and a big amount or bigger amount at the end. So we had to do that progression manually. We also, on some of those nodes, we also have some battles that we put in the paths to slow down the player progression, and these battles were also manually created. So we had to pick the monster IDs, the monster level, the rules of the battle, everything manually, and then at the end, again, copy-paste Maze Island's JSON. Perfect, right? So enter the Maze Shaper. This is the after. This is the good times. So we built the Maze Shaper to tackle the three main pillars of the setup process of this event. The first one that we tackled was the balancing and analysis part. And so before it was insane, we got the business goal or the product goal from the product team or the live ops team, and we had a specific spreadsheet filled with massive 6-line formulas just to calculate the progression of costs. And we wanted to simplify this, not only because it was impossible to maintain that kind of file, but also because we wanted to onboard new people into the team and have them setting up mazes in a short period of time and not take 2 months to learn how the process works. So our main goals was to distill everything down to just a few parameters, and we were able to do that here. So you have 3 parameters, more or less, that you can control for each path. The length of the path in nodes, the starting cost, so the amount it costs to move the first node, and then the amount of days that we want the players to take to complete each path. And what this does, along with the key placement that we define manually as well, this calculates based on on the average earning of each player, of the players. It defines the cost to match the total days that we want them to take to finish the event. So this, very, very simple, automatic calculation of the path costs was amazing. It allowed us to iterate very, very fast, because if we got any last-minute changes from product, we were able just to tweak a few parameters, and that's it. So this was a huge step in the right direction. Second part was the map design. So the map design before, as I explained, it was crazy. It was just plain stupid. And importing the map design process into Sheets didn't seem intuitive at first, but it quickly became one of the biggest changes in the entire process. So before, we had to do it across multiple steps, across multiple tools. Here, we can draw the path, and we can automatically, as we're drawing the path, we can place the rewards on each node. So before, we had to draw it and imagine, more or less, when we're defining the contents of each node, we had to imagine, because we have the image on our left side and we have the spreadsheet with the rewards, the contents on our right, we had to imagine, okay, maybe I'm putting too much food in this section of the map, maybe I'm putting too much gold in this section of the map. This allowed us to visually see it immediately. So it saved us a lot of time, a lot of guesswork, and it made it much more intuitive, let's say, to do this part of the setup. And then the final one was the node contents and rewards. So this part is still very manual, because it needs to be, but we still got a pretty good tools that allowed us to improve the process and make it faster. So we got some really cool, or we developed some, I didn't develop, they developed, the really, really cool dashboards that allowed us to see a real-time update of the reward distribution. So we can see, okay, there's too much gold in this path, or there's too many runes in this one, and we can distribute it better. And then for the ones that we still need to place manually, at least we got some cool forms with data validation that allows us to easily select the rewards that we want to put. And also, the really cool thing about the distribution of values, so we got automatic distribution of currencies, so we just defined the overall goal for the event. So let's say 500,000 gold here, and it automatically, based on the position of the node and the index of the path, it distributes it, which is perfect. And then the last thing that we really wanted to impact was the human error. So one button export to Maze Island's JSON, amazing. So what were the results of this? Well, 4 to 7 days of setup became 1 to 2 days. This event can be set up right now by one person in 1 day. It allowed us to iterate very, very fast, because we can react faster to changes. It's less error prone, of course, copy-paste versus one button export, of course. And it gave us the ability, and most importantly, the time, to focus on quality and on polish. Before, we were rushing to deliver this event on time. We ended up multiple times pushing to production 30 minutes before it was live. Now we can do it 2 days, 3 days in advance with better quality and better polish. Finally, why spreadsheets? it's clearly not the perfect tool for the job. A web interface where you can draw the maze and it automatically snaps and everything, or even an auto maze generator based on machine learning would be much, much perfect, more perfect. But it's the best one because we have to take into account development constraints, we have to take into account time, iteration, speed of iteration, and Sheets allows us to create really, really good tools in a very, very short amount of time. It's also very flexible and versatile. So we're using them for some things that usually we don't use them, like the map generation or the map creation, but it's flexible. It allows us to do that. It's collaborative by nature. All Google apps are. So we are game developers. We work across multiple departments. We need to coordinate with programmers, art, QA, etc. So by using a tool that's collaborative by design, it gives us a lot of advantages. And then finally, it's very easy to learn if you know Excel, or it's easy to pick up and use. So it's also easy, as I mentioned earlier, to onboard new people into the team. And then it's easy to extend. Let's say that I have a little bit of knowledge of JavaScript and I need it to do something that currently doesn't do. I can just go into Google Apps Script and make it do what I want. So that's it. I'm going to pass it over to my colleague, Philippe.
Can you hear me? Yeah? Okay. So I'm Philippe. I'm a data tools engineer as well at Social Point, and I'm helping the guys, the game designers, and also Guillem to actually build tools. My presentation is going to be a little bit more code-centric. So who is actively a developer here? And okay, quite a few. And who plays with the Spreadsheet API? Okay, a few. We have a few people. Cool. All right. Okay, so I'm going to discuss spreadsheets as databases. Okay, and more importantly, the data tables. So what is a table? That's a table. I think we've all used once. The characteristics are simple. We have a header. At the top, the header is made of unique fields. Each row is an item to the table, and each item are made of field values, and even more in our case, because we can have backgrounds, the font colors, etc. Those are widely used in spreadsheets. If you do an image search on Google for spreadsheets, you actually see only data tables this way. And yet, there is no API that actually interact with this type of data representation. The Spreadsheet API is still very attached to the coordinate system, the rows, and the columns, the AY notation. So we built something called Sheetfu, which is an abstraction, Sheetfu, which is an abstraction of the row and columns of the spreadsheets, and which is a comprehensive API, I believe, and helps set values and other dimensions in a very abstracted way. There is a link. When you have the presentation, you'll be able to actually access the code for yourself. From a code perspective, it's two classes, the table class, which is representative of the actual table, and the item class, which is each rows of the table. The item class actually follow the original range class that you may be familiar with, which help us actually set the values, get the values, etc. We adapted it. We had the field name in the name of the method, so get field value, set field value, so you can interact with it. Each time you change data in an item, you need to commit the data. So we have an example here. Task number 1. This is our names. We have 2 superheroes over here. We want to change them to woman. So we change the word. We want to change the background color. We want to change the font color. And we had a little note as well over here. The old school way, this is how the code would look. You first extract the data range from the actual spreadsheet. Then for the data range, you extract each data of each dimensions. So you have the values, the backgrounds, the notes, and font colors. Each of those variables are actually 2-dimensional arrays, so this is quite hard to manage. but it's still feasible. Then you need to extract the header, which is the first row of the values. Then you need to figure out which index is the surname column in the header. And then you look through the rows and you've checked the actual values. We try to figure out where men's are. And when we detect one, we change woman. We change the values to woman. We change the background to red. We change the notes to the notes we want. We change the font color to white. Essentially, what this is doing, we're actually changing the two-dimensional arrays over here. When they're changed, we push them to the data range, and the data is changed automatically. That's the old way, okay? It's reasonable. This is respecting the API of Google, but we can do better. The new school, Sheetfu. Just to give you a sense, this is much shorter, okay? Let's break it down. We create the table object, so Sheetfu get table. We give it the name of the sheet, and we give the header row. So the header row is literally the header. Sometimes you may want to have the header on the second row, so you put 2 or 3 or whatever. But that creates the table object. Then you can loop through the items of the table, and you create on each iteration in your for loop. You can create your item object. And then you get the value. You try to check if the field value of the field surname equals man. If it is, then you can set actually the value you're interested in. So you can set field value, set field background, set field notes, set field font color. Once you've done it, you commit. Simple. Any question on this so far? All right. Essentially, this is shorter. Okay. And sometimes when we do shortcuts, we may lack in readability or clarity, but in that case, we actually don't. We're also very clear with the code. Under the hood as well, we only set values to what we want to change. Most of the time, we copy-paste literally all the values and backgrounds up there. But here, we just chirurgically update what we want to change. And we don't deal with two-dimensional arrays or three-dimensional arrays. It's just one big fat array with all the items. Let's take another example, which is a task number 2, a little bit more complex. So this is what Guillem showed us from the Monster Shaper. So we create all those skills and those descriptions. And we need to send those descriptions via export to a big fat localization strings table that contains over 15,000 lines. So that's a lot of lines to process. More importantly, people come back to those monster shapers. So sometimes they change the description. They may send the new strings. We're not too sure the strings are new when they need to be updated. So it's always a little bit complicated, because this means that for each string we need to check every line in a table, which takes an insane amount of time, and we don't want a script to run for 10 minutes. It doesn't make sense in a spreadsheet. So I'll go through the school very quickly. Beginning the same thing, we extract the data range. If we don't want to loop through each time for each item, what we do, we create a hash table to actually benefit from the speed of a hash table, where each key in the table is actually referenced to the line on the sheet. And then we look through the keys we want to check. If it is actually in the index table over there, we know it's already an existing key, so we can update the values. If it's not, we need to create a new item, and I don't have any space on the slide here to cover it. Essentially, that code starts to be a bit complicated. It's feasible, but if you're someone that comes back to the code and wants to maintain it, you're going to be like, what the hell is going on? And code essentially is read 10 times more than it's actually written, so this is very important to take this in consideration. Sheetfu, this is how it looks. That's it. Very simple. Very short, and also very expressive. Let's break it down. Same object. This is a table object. But there is a third argument here. Key is the name of the column we want to create an index with. So we know that this column only have unique IDs. And we create an hash table based on those IDs, where the key are the IDs and the values are the items. And then we look through the keys we want to check, or the new object we want to check to their presence in the table, and we check the itemical. We use this method, which is getItemById, where we check the ID. That method returns the item if it exists, or undefined if it doesn't. So it's very easy to have a if-else after that interact with this logic. So there is an item, we actually set the value, and we commit the data. If it does not exist, we actually create the item with the add method, and we also commit the value. And that's it. We save a lot of time with this code. Extremely easy to maintain, even for newcomers. It's amazing. It's open source as well, so if you guys want to contribute, you're more than welcome. If you want to report issues as well, we may have some. Go ahead. And we are also working on a Python version of it. That's it. And I'm going to pass the mic to Xavi.
Hi. Yeah. Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Xavi. I'm project manager here in Social Point. But, well, before project manager, I used to work as a developer in the early days of Dragon City and Monster Legends. And later as a lead developer, again, on both games. And finally now, I'm working on Monster Legends, okay, with these guys. So, today, I'm going to talk to you about the spreadsheets as a dashboards, okay? Just to give you a little bit of context, okay? In Monster Legends, in my case, last year, I've been focused on LiveOps. More or less, you already got an idea about what's a LiveOps, but as a concept, it's a temporal event, okay? So it goes from a small monster offer to the Maze Island that Henry already explained you. So it's a really complex and long task or event that we have to set up, okay? So just you get an idea, the number of LiveOps that we do monthly, it's around 250. So it's huge, okay, the amount of work that we have to do. And to add an extra layer of difficulty here, there are more than 7 departments involved in order to create these LiveOps, from artists, UI artists, game designers, QA, sounds, backend, okay, probably I will miss some. So the task that we are here, it's huge, okay? So in order to help on this workflow, okay, we decided to integrate JIRA in our life, okay, around 1 year ago. I don't know if someone of you has used JIRA. Okay, I got more hands than you guys. But more difficult question, who has used his API? Okay, now I lose here. So, well, actually, we are really successful with it. With this, we centralize the workflow in one place because, as my colleague said, the LiveOps creation was really decentralized. We have a lot of documents. Also, in terms of the working work basis, no, the daily basis, was really complex to deal with it. So JIRA helped us a lot in order to grow in terms of LiveOps. 1 year ago, probably, we were doing half of the number of LiveOps that right now we are able to do, okay? Also, as you can imagine, a lot of LiveOps, a lot of departments, it implies a lot of tickets that we have to create. So more or less, this is around 1,500 tickets every month that we have to create. But don't worry, we don't create them manually. We have a script that these guys also did that allow us to create this in bulk, okay? So, which is our challenge here? As you can imagine, so many tickets here in JIRA means that we got a big production database, okay? And this database was really useful in terms of defining milestones and improve the productivity of our team, okay? So it was really important to process it and show it in a way that we can follow up the performance of the team and define new KPIs, new milestones that allow us to improve the productivity of the team on the daily basis. Okay? So, just you get an idea of which kind of milestones or objectives that we kind of agree with the team in order to improve his productivity. We have things like, they already mentioned, bugs. No? For example, in case of Henry, he struggled a lot with the maze because it was complex, right? So when he passed it to our QA team used to find out a lot of bugs, sometimes because the balancing was wrong, sometimes because the asset was not deployed to production, okay? So we wanted to count all these kind of things to try to solve them, apply actions to reduce this back and forth that we have between game design and QA. Also, other kind of live-ops that we have, we try to track the workload of the team, how in advance we do the live-ops, because at the end of live-ops it's a schedule in a certain time and day. Okay, we want an offer of a monster tomorrow at 12. Okay, so if we are able to deploy or to do these live-ops in advance, we will avoid to be on a hurry deploying an event 1 minute before it's live. Okay, so in terms of quality, we will improve here. We also want to count them as a history to say if we increase the workload of the team. About the bugs, again, see which kind of type of the bug QA has reported, if it's about an asset that it's missing or the configuration wrong, and also about the time tracking. We wanted to track if the time that we're investing in the team was the one that we were expecting, so it will help us to do more realistic plans on weekly basis. Okay? So, I'm going to explain you our data workflow, okay? So you get an idea about all the data that we generate and how it arrived to these dashboards that we created, okay? So first of all, we have this LiveOps calendar here that, again, it's a spreadsheet, okay? Sexy spreadsheet, as Guillem mentioned before, okay? That have more or less this, looks like this, okay? As you can see, this looks like a calendar, okay? So that's why we call it LiveOps calendar. But allows product guys a lot of more flexibility because here they can do a lot of nasty things, okay? So they have their columns with different types of LiveOps, okay? In this case, here is the maze that Henry mentioned before. We have the demonic maze that was scheduled on April. We also have video ads, breeding events. So it's a massive document, okay, that we have since a couple of years ago, okay, and it helps us a lot in order to later create all the tickets that then the team will work on them, okay? So this is a second step that we have on this document where this matrix, let's say of this calendar, translate to a temporal linear list of all the events, okay, as you can see. And then what we do is we send them to JIRA, okay? Again, with the script, we have all these events in JIRA tickets, and inside all of them, there is a task for artists, there is a task for game designers, there is a task for sounds, okay? So everyone can start working on it. So then, what I told you before at the beginning, we want all this data to have some dashboards in order to track how the team was performing, okay? So our first try was to try to use the dashboards that we have in JIRA and see if we were able to track everything, all the milestones that we set in place at the beginning, okay? So we failed here, okay? Not completely, but we saw that JIRA doesn't allow us to track or to have metrics of everything that we wanted, okay? So here we have some metrics that more or less were useful, but as you can see here, this metric actually nobody understands, okay? So I don't expect to go to my product manager and say, hey, yes, look, the team, it's working really fine, don't worry, we're fine, okay? So we say, okay, maybe what we have to do is, let's go back to spreadsheets, let's take all the data that we have in JIRA, because at the end, every ticket has a lot of information, when the ticket was done, how many bugs were reported by QA, okay? Let's export this information with the JIRA API, okay? and we bulk it in this KPIs dashboard document that we created. And then we are able to create nice metrics that everyone and product will love and will say, okay, the team is performing really well, well done. Okay. So here, product were happy, me personally I was happy, and actually my team also was happy because they were able to see really easy if they were performing well, if the actions that they take in place in order to improve his productivity were working, if they had to iterate. So just to give you some easy examples, before I was mentioning this QA bug found, okay, that is the bugs that QA reports on testing, okay, the maze, the monster offer, a monster itself, okay, and as you can see here, we have the types, no? So really easy, every month, we can see the evolution of each type of live op if the actions that we had in place take effect, okay? Also similar, but in this case by year, we can count how many bugs we did in these types of live ops, a monster, a news, a maze, okay? Just as a curiosity here, as you can see, the monster is our big one, okay? So you will say, well, you did a shaper, was it useful here? Well, actually, it was. Before was bigger, this. The problem is that we still have some tasks that we have not been able to automate, okay? Also, there is localization here. Sometimes the QA reports that the strings are not right. Okay, there are some things that we still have gap for improvement, but other needs other kind of solution. Shaper cannot fix everything, okay? But as a curiosity, last year, our top three was this one, the dungeon, okay? And as you can see now, we even ignore it, okay? This means that these metrics help us to tackle the top three and try to apply as much action as we could. So actually, it really worked. Before, I think it was top 2 or top 1, probably top 2. And now, well, we did a really nice dungeon shaper, okay? And it solved our life, okay? Other interesting metrics, as I said before, we measure the workload of the team, so we try to advance spikes on their workload on the future weeks, okay? And we also have a metric to see if we deploy or we do the live ops enough in advance, okay? So more or less, you just got an idea. Right now, we are setting up the live ops that will be live in nearly 10 days, okay? So we are fine here. So, spreadsheet benefits. As my colleagues already mentioned, we are a Google-friendly company or a spreadsheets-friendly company, okay? We use spreadsheets for a lot of things. All the departments, okay? Mainly it's business guys, product, but also in terms of developers, game designers, they use it a lot, so we are used to it. So it's really easy to share these documents, manage the permissions, okay? We are super familiar with these kind of things. What is more important is that it allows us a lot of flexibility. As you already see, we try actually to use JIRA, no? to centralize all the information there, to build dashboards there, but actually we didn't succeed there. So spreadsheets allow us a lot of flexibility here, and we could actually got all the metrics that we wanted, all the milestones that we say, this is interesting, we could build it, okay? And also, it allows fast iteration, okay? What does it mean? Nowadays, after 1 year of iterating here, the team is sometimes still asking for some metrics to me, like, hey, how many bugs are we doing on this live op? They are always asking me because they see that this help them to see if they are performing well, if they can save time. At the end, we want to do less monkey work, no? So if we are able to give them visibility when they are aware that something is not going well, then they react and they apply actions. So this fast iteration allow us to, in few days, have a metric, gather information, and say, hey, we are here, and we want to be there, okay? So this is really important. So that's it from my side. Guillem will give some conclusions.
I'm extra difficulty with the glasses. Okay, great. Thank you, Xavi. So we are almost in the end. Maybe some of you are, is this real life or is just fantasy? You know that I like Queen. So it's real life. Spreadsheets is saving our lives. It's increasing a lot our productivity. So I'll try to make a summary of what's in the meta level, all the spreadsheets, what's the context, and what are the strength, the SWOT of the tool, of the software. So my manager, tools department manager, says that spreadsheets are like a Lego. So you have the idea what you want to do. Let's say it's a car. You start, while you are thinking, you start building it, and right after you can play with the car, no? So I think it's a great analogy with spreadsheets because you can, it's the same when game designers say, okay, we have a new feature. On the same meeting, we're starting to design the table maybe. Afterwards, okay, we know the functionality, so we go to Google Apps Script, we develop the scripts, they run it or we run it, we see what's happening. Okay, it improves, or it doesn't impact the productivity? Yes, okay, let's go more. If not, no problem. The cost of development was really low, so we can do it again. So one really cool thing is the user autonomy. So users feel familiar to the spreadsheet, so they feel they own. So they see also what can be wrong, and they can also propose the solutions themselves, and some of them, like Henry, hey, I built this JavaScript. Okay. Did you do a PR? By the way, we have everything in GitHub. If you have questions, later I can explain you how integrated Google Apps Script with GitHub. So it's multiplayer. We have this collaboration thing, so more than one person can go to the tool and add the contribution. Maybe product people will add the briefing, then the game designers do the balancing, testing guys will see what should be there, and then it's in the game, so everyone can benefit. And it's, let's say, multi-platform, so we can use it in Windows, we can use it in Mac, we can even use it in our phones and tablets. We didn't do it, but maybe it's the next meetup in 2 years where we do it with tablets and I don't know. So on the other side, it's also a fragile tool. If you want to break it, it's really easy to break. But the cool thing is it's for few users, so it's really attached to the daily base. It's really customized to the person, so the person doesn't want to break it because it's saving a lot of time to them. We have technical limitations. For example, there is a limit on the script running. For normal users, I think it's 5 minutes. We have kind of a Google Script VIP, and I don't know, extension, and we have 20 minutes. But sometimes these 20 minutes, it's not enough for one execution. So then we have to move to other infrastructures. Maybe it's not the right tool, spreadsheets, for that case. And also, there is a reduced accuracy. In our case, I'm more perfectionist, I have to say. Philippe is more practical, and I learned a lot from Philippe. Our tools are to use for one person or two persons, so it's not that important, the pixel perfect, or if the UX is really good, or it's just, it works, fine, go on. So, opportunity as well. This is hosted by Google Developers Community, so we have community around the world behind Google Apps Script contributing. They are adding new features. They are not changing that much the API, so I think in 2.5 years, I had 1 or 2 problems that they changed something, I had to fix it. So it's kind of really stable. And the bad or the threats are, we are attached to Google, but we are attached to Google in many things, I think. And we are cloud-based, so if we don't have internet, we cannot work. Okay, maybe there is Google Sheets offline, but then we cannot run scripts or whatever. But if we don't have internet here, at least, we're also really fucked up. So, just to finish, Spreadsheets is a familiar software that embraces user accountability. They are handy tools for the daily work, so really customized to the needs of the user or users, 3, 5 users. And the cool thing is the cost is really low. So tools in general, we put a process, we put a workflow in a tool. So as Henry said, if this process has to transfer to another person, it's easy to do because you just say, okay, this tool has some steps, just follow. If you have one question, just let me know. Before, we had a lot of process in the mind of the people, so if this person is sick or is not in the office anymore, I don't know, well, yeah, you have to investigate, spend a lot of time. So overall, spreadsheet tools help us to go beyond prototyping, so not just prototype and see how it would like, also make them work. So Xavi, Henry, and other game designers and other product managers and project managers in the company are really happy workers, focused on creative tasks, not on monkey job. There is a high impact on productivity, as you saw, with Monster Shaper, with Dungeons, with Maze Shaper. And the cool thing is the low development cost. Sometimes we release Shaper in 1 week. Yeah, that's it. The main functionality is, it works. Okay, we add something, and that's cool, because if you're developers, if something it's worth a month to build and it was not that specific thing what they need, it's really stressful and frustration to change it back. So my proposal is, okay, let's make spreadsheets sexy. Let's make sexy great again. I think we can see beyond spreadsheets, and I hope you see right now the ones that you hate spreadsheets. You see spreadsheets in another perspective, and hope that you are also enthusiastic. If you really like this day-to-day we are doing with Philippe, not just developers, but also as kind of consultants to understand the process and understand the needs, we are hiring. We are hiring a data tools engineer, so the same role. So you would do the same that Philippe and me we are doing. We have a lot of work to do, so we need another one on board. Moreover, Sheetfu is open source, so come on, guys, contribute, use it, or start it and spread the word. And if you're interested and you're like, oh my God, I love it, right now spreadsheets are inside the company, but this is the first time we go outside, so you just get in touch with me, and maybe we can do a Google Groups, or I don't know. I mean, it's the first time we are opening to public, so I'm really enthusiastic. I think this is the future. If someone else does also, so we can be too. Or more, because in the company we are many people who really like it. So thank you very much. And so so now I propose that Philippe, Xavi, and Henry comes here to the stage. We have here a mic. It's really easy. You just have to put it, well, right now maybe it's double, and speak. Any question you would like to ask to any one of us? First one will have an extra beer. 3 beer, okay. Well, this is more cooler.
You told that it's
Put-
very
put it here,
fragile,
please.
but how you solve the issues? If you broke something, you have a backup, or you have something, or you are screwed?
That's a good question. When we start, we were screwed somehow. Right now, we have all the versioning in GitHub. So all the code, the glue code, Google Apps script, we have an extension that maybe I can share with the slides, that you can push and pull the code. So we do branches and everything. So if something is wrong, we go back and pull it. Yeah, I solved your question? Okay.
Were you talking about the data in the spreadsheets or the actual code?
Well, both things a bit.
Okay, all right. For spreadsheet, we do have some sort of branching.
Wait.
Actually, not the best to answer that question. I think Xavi, you know better. All right. for the data, basically, we do have some, I think it's more Dragon City, where we actually back up the spreadsheet data in some ways. So we're not really involved in this, but we do back up the data. So if someone do a bad query on the spreadsheet and everything is deleted, it's not lost forever.
Yeah,
We can revert.
I think we have all the spreadsheets. We have a backup copy, and moreover, we have the versioning story of the spreadsheet. So sometimes it's tricky because as it's a collaborative tool, if you go back to 1 week before, maybe there are more changes than yours. You can see there all the changes. We use this in really critical situations.
Yeah, actually, now I remember. The cool thing about the scripts is that at the end, it's like you execute them, or you do the formulas, or you write. So at the end, you can do Control Z, and you revert completely what the script does. So this was really fun and funny, and actually, I'm more used to use the tools that this guy does, but product guys sometimes like, whoa, the document, it's fuck up, it's all the information, different colors, and I say, no, don't worry, just Control Z and you revert it, and it's like, oh, okay. So it's pretty cool because you feel safe, no? So, or the guys when they don't trust much the tools, they say, well, I can always do Control Z and everything will be like before.
And you revert only your changes,
yeah.
your user changes,
so actually
not the other changes of the other people.
That's a nice feature.
More questions? When
Hi.
and they are new, so it will be.
How do you decide to go for Google Spreadsheets instead of other tool? Who asked for it? Like more the management group or you as a tools creators?
I would say it was more contextual or the circumstance. So there were many spreadsheets. So JSONs were in spreadsheets. Game designers were using their models in spreadsheets. So everything was there already. So I remember the product team, they said, okay, cannot be possible that game designers spend 8 hours on this task. Let's try to simplify it, but let's try to not change everything. So the challenge, without knowing that we would end in a tool, the challenge was trying to not touch anything, but save time. So that was using the spreadsheet they were there, just trying to improve. One game designer did kind of a mock-up of what he was thinking it would be improving, and then we add the scripts, and then we started to do kind of the tool. So I would say it was not a decision, it was more a circumstance. Okay. Right now, it's a decision. We do spreadsheet tools because we think it's the best tool, maybe, but the best tool for that circumstance because it's really easy to do.
And what would be the alternative, like creating a web application? No, that implies managing a server. Okay, yeah, that implies managing a server, code that is substantially more complicated as well, and it's probably going to take more time as well to build the product, the end product itself. So yeah, we like Spreadsheet because it's fast. You know, in 1 week we can have an actual product that will take at least a month in the web application.
I'm asking for this because we are recording this presentation, so we will share with you and for the ones that cannot come. And so if we don't speak with the mic, nothing can be here. So any more question? Any third question? Okay, if you have more questions, right now we are going to the beers, so we can do more one-to-one question or any specific thing. So I propose to go to the other side and let's see what they prepared for us. And well, I'm hungry. And thank you very much for coming.